Good afternoon from along the trail, southern Sweden. Long ways to go. Path is beautiful. Trees are majestic, just like every other day. But every day is different. You never walk the same trail twice. I had a fun thing happen yesterday. It was yesterday or the day before, the night before. 1995, picture it, Montreal, one of the best years of my life. I had just spent the summer in Finland with family. It was a wonderful summer, beautiful, beautiful days, lots of great memories all over Finland from that summer. But I spent fall on exchange at a university in Montreal, and I had the most amazing time. I'm still in touch with many of those people. I have been in touch with one of my favorite professors, Robert Bly, ever since that time. We've never lost touch. I called her up after a couple of years. I hadn't spoken to her from Italy this spring, and we had the most wonderful conversation, lots of laughter and joy. And I keep in touch with other people from that brief time, and it was a magical time. You know, the economy was terrible, rents were cheap. There were great festivals as ever, but even more back then. There was an openness, diversity. Just I had so much fun, and I took so many long walks. I've walked every block of Montreal, and I've talked to lifelong Montrealers who don't believe me, and I said, I will challenge you and challenge you and challenge you. I am a world-class walking enthusiast, and I know my way around Montreal. Last time I was there, you could drop me anywhere, and I could get anywhere without maps or compasses or phones or anything. But I had a friend who lived in the residence in Molson Hall, of course, Molson Hall, way up at the top that backed into Montreal Park, and we had so much fun. Like, we randomly sat at the same table at lunch once, and then we kept finding each other, and this wasn't romantic, you know, you know, I feel like I need to state that. We were just friends, and he enjoyed long walks too. We liked obscure films, independent films, foreign films. We fully explored the bagel scene in Montreal. We both appreciated the fact that there's Fairmont has 24-hour bagels that are just amazing, and we would sometimes walk there at 2 a.m. and get fresh bagels. It's the most magical place. Montreal is number one in so many regards. But anyway, you know, I was there a brief time, and then I was off on another adventure, and then I lost touch with him. I didn't mean to. It's like we didn't even have each other's email addresses. We just kept bumping. You know, we lived in the same residence hall. We saw each other a lot. We didn't exchange phone numbers or emails or anything like that. And then years later, you know, many adventures later, I thought he would come into my mind now and then. And one of the things is that he taught me how to say Toronto correctly. He was from one of the suburbs of Toronto, I think Oshawa or Mississauga. Anyway, but I was at lunch with like three other students from Toronto, and that's right. I was about to go to Toronto, and I said it like the stuffy, you know, American or probably UK or other place way where it's more like Toronto, you know, and they all were, they were just seething underneath. And I didn't notice it. I didn't pick up on it at the time, but they were all from there. And then finally he like pulls me aside and he says, if you're from there, we say Toronto. And then from that day forward, I've always said it that way. And it was funny. I was giving a speech maybe about 15 years ago somewhere, and I had to mention Toronto, and I said it the way that he taught me and his friends taught me. And then like afterwards, after I get two Americans came up to me and they like overemphasized like the this stuffy, pretentious way that someone might say the city name, and as if they were educating me. And I was like, well, la-di-da. But anyway, so I'm using my old biz account, Beyond the Grape, on Instagram, and this new account started following me some weeks ago and liking a lot of my stuff. And it was someone, and his Instagram tag is German for the Flying Canadian. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought, oh, well, just randomly somehow came across my page and liked my content. Oh, that's great. And the pictures of him weren't clear. But then all of a sudden, 2 days ago, he finally lets me know that he was the friend that I lost 30 years ago when I was living and studying in Montreal. And it's so funny. It was like we both thought of each other at different points over the last 30 years. And I tried to look him up, but I didn't remember his name, like first name or last name. So great friend. But that was the beauty of it. It's just like we didn't, we never formally introduced each other. We just like sat down once and started talking and had a great time, and then kept bumping into each other and doing stuff together. And like there was nothing formal about it. And then we lost touch just as easily. It was just like flying through and out of the hall, and but we had enough significant points, and we had enough laughter and other things that we apparently always remembered each other. And then he somehow found me. I guess he remembered my name, and given my fame and all the things I've done that have left footprints all over the internet. And so he found my Instagram account, and then he finally revealed that that's who he was. It was like, then I looked at his pictures. His pictures are not very clear. I don't know if I would recognize him after 30 years anyway, but I remember thinking he looked vaguely familiar. And then it just all clicked. And it's just like, and now we're having this great conversation, and he comes to Europe quite a bit now. I think he's still based in Toronto, but it's just amazing. Like, I always felt, I know I'm going to cross paths with him again, because I've had so many things that seem like mad coincidences happen in place you least expect it. And, you can't force those things to happen. I guess those things happen when you're not thinking about it or not hoping for it. They just manifest because of some outgrowth of your spirit, I guess. But this was magical, and I'm so happy to be reconnected. It's quite amazing, really. And it's like an old knot that you needed to untie, and that I felt a little bit guilty that, given all this technology that has developed since 1995, it would have been very easy to find him if I could have remembered his name. So I hope he doesn't see this video. But it's all good. So I wanted to read a Robert Bly poem. I may have already done this one, but if you know anything about Robert Bly, he was always about repeating. You could always tell which poems he liked. He would give a reading in my town. He had his writer's cabin in the town where I grew up and went to high school and, K through 12. And there were certain poems that he would always read. And then even if in one reading, he would like repeat a line, or else he'd get to the end, he'd talk a little bit, and he said, "Should I read that again? Did you get that? Maybe I should read that again. Should I? I'll read it again." And so, and that's been a long running joke. Everybody who knows Robert knows that he does that. And so I know I recorded this one when I was in the testing phase, when I was a little bit farther north in Sweden, and I was testing out these little videos. I know that I did this one, but I don't think I published it. So we're going to do it again anyway. And even if I did, every time I read this poem, I get something else in it, even though it's almost like a short story in some ways, and there's narrative structure to it a little bit. Poetry is prose with a sort of heightened consciousness, but it also has some just really strong, distinctive imagery and energy, and mystery, and I like it because the words are simple, mostly very simple. The story is simple, the action is simple, but if you really, really listen to it, you hear all kinds of textures, tones, nuances, and it will relate to your life if you let it. And it's a poem worth coming back to. I do, you know. And I think this was about 1980 that he published this one, and he had a little volume of poems called "The Man in the Black Coat Turns," I believe, which is a line from the ending of this poem. And he read it, you know, the way he read it is going to be way better than the way I read it. But I've read it many times. I have it memorized, but I also have the text in front of me, because sometimes when you're recording things, it's like you don't want someone to comment, oh, you got a word wrong, or you left something out, or something like that. And so it's like, I just want to make sure that I don't jumble anything or gloss over anything. So I have the structure. And also, poetry has a graphical structure to it. And sometimes, if you've memorized a poem, you can see it in your head. You can see it as it's on the page, but sometimes your mind tricks itself and you don't see it the way it is on the page. And there's a reason why it looks a certain way, and that also gives meaning to it, apparently, or some people think that. I don't know. You be the judge. But, okay, so now I'm going to get all serious, and we're going to read this. Snowbanks North of the house. Those great sweeps of snow that stop suddenly 6 feet from the house. Thoughts that go so far. The boy gets out of high school and reads no more books. The son stops calling home. The mother puts down her rolling pin and makes no more bread. And the wife looks at her husband one night at a party and loves him no more. The energy leaves the wine, and the minister falls, leaving the church. It will not come closer. The one inside moves back, and the hands touch nothing and are safe. The father grieves for his son and will not leave the room where the coffin stands. He turns away from his wife, and she sleeps alone. And the sea lifts and falls all night. The moon goes on through the unattached heavens alone. The toe of the shoe pivots in the dust, and the man in the black coat turns and goes back down the hill. No one knows why he came, or why he turned away and did not climb the hill. So that was Snowbanks North of the House, Robert Bly, written probably in the late 70s. And I think in the video I did, which I think was a test video, I think I went on for another 10 minutes and talked about how some of the imagery reminded me of specific moments of childhood, teenage years, some of my childhood trauma, things like that. But then just the imagery, and then the overarching themes of, you know, this stranger who you're observing, or is it a stranger, or what is it, or who is it, and thinking about, you know, the shoe pivots in the dust, and then this imagery, which actually comes up in Bly a lot. He loved this imagery. It's like of the sea. Like we were far, we were far from the sea in northern, kind of central Minnesota, but you're close to Lake Superior, which is kind of like a sea. That whole Great Lakes thing. It's not that different, but now that I've lived on the sea and traveled through a lot of the seas, and there's a difference, but it's like this whole idea that like in the middle of the ocean or the middle of a large sea, and you think of that lifting and falling, and he loved that imagery. And it's like it's an energy, and it's a sensation, and it's a thought, and it's something that can really, really spark your mind if you really drill down into that. Is like what's going on there. It's like all these things that happen because of a butterfly's wings or something, or that's kind of like the popular notion that you heard sprinkled through mainstream culture. But I'm going to stop there because I like to leave this poem just as it is, and I think it was one of the few poems that Robert did as well, that it was like a standalone. It didn't need a lot of commentary. So I've already rambled on too long, nonsensically, not adding anything to the discussion. But, it's all part of life's rich tapestry. And I hope you have a great journey today. I hope you can take an epic journey sometime in your life and really confront all of these dark, deep treasures, the cave that this imagery comes through a lot of things. This is like the cave that you fear to enter is where all your treasure is. And I was cynical about that phrase or that idea, it pops up in many different places, many different cultures. But on this trek and in the last 6 months, I have finally gotten to a point where I see it and I feel it, and I'm writing better than I ever have. The best is yet to come, and I want to share my stories and my gifts and my limited insights, and try and help others walk in the light. It's a beautiful day, and I thank you again. I'm letting the time run out. I'm going to go off on 1800.